The eviction notice trembled in Olivia Nash's fingers as rain pelted against the windows of her tiny studio apartment. 30 days. She had 30 days before she would be homeless. The notice blurred as unwelcome tears formed in her eyes, but she blinked them away fiercely. 28 years of fighting to survive had taught her that tears solved nothing. "Not today," she whispered, forcing herself to place the notice on her wobbly kitchen table instead of crumpling it into a ball as she desperately wanted to do. The children's laughter from Sunnybrook Elementary still echoed in her memory. 3 weeks since the layoffs, but the sound remained fresh as yesterday. Budget cuts had claimed her teaching position, leaving her without income and with mounting debt. Her teaching degree, purchased with years of night classes while working full-time, had become just another expense she couldn't afford to finish paying off. Her phone buzzed against the cardboard box that served as her coffee table. Another rejection email from a job application. She didn't need to read it to know what it said. "We've decided to go with someone whose qualifications better match our needs." Translation: someone with connections she didn't have. The ancient radiator in the corner wheezed pathetically, offering more noise than heat. Olivia pulled her grandmother's quilt tighter around her shoulders, the only family heirloom she owned, smelling faintly of lavender and better times. Her laptop screen cast a blue glow across her face as darkness gathered outside. Job listings scrolled past. Receptionist, server, retail associate, all requiring experience she didn't have or paying too little to cover even this modest apartment. Her checking account balance mocked her from the corner of the screen, $267.43. Not enough for rent, let alone food for the month. Then she saw it. Live-in caretaker position. Immediate start. Exceptional compensation. Manhattan family seeks dedicated individual for 6-year-old daughter. References required. Discretion essential. Olivia's heart quickened as she read the salary figure. It had to be a mistake. No one paid that much for childcare, not even in Manhattan's wealthiest neighborhoods. But the posting looked legitimate, with contact information leading to a prestigious law firm she recognized from news headlines. Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed her response, attaching glowing references from the school principal who had apologetically handed her the layoff notice. Principal Thornton had written that Olivia possessed an intuitive understanding of children's emotional needs and a remarkable ability to connect with even the most withdrawn students. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The phone rang 90 minutes later. "Miss Nash, this is Thomas Reynolds, personal assistant to Mr. Julian Blackwood. Are you available for an interview tomorrow morning?" Olivia nearly dropped the phone. Julian Blackwood was a tech mogul who'd transformed an innovative security algorithm into a billion-dollar empire. His face occasionally graced financial magazines, always photographed in impeccable suits with cold eyes and a calculating smile. The kind of man who built and destroyed companies with frightening efficiency. "Yes," she managed. "I'm available." "Excellent. The address is 1120 Park Avenue, the penthouse. Can you be there at 9? That gave her 12 hours to transform herself from desperate former teacher to competent professional. "I'll be there." The subway ride the next morning felt interminable, each stop bringing her closer to a world she'd only glimpsed in movies. The black dress she wore was her interview armor, purchased from a thrift store 3 years ago and carefully maintained for important occasions. The limestone building rose before her like a monument to wealth, doormen in crisp uniforms guarding the gleaming entrance. Olivia squared her shoulders and walked through the marble lobby, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "I'm here to see Mr. Blackwood," she told the concierge, proud that her voice didn't waver. The private elevator was mirrored and silent, rising effortlessly to the top floor. It opened directly into a foyer that stole her breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Central Park like a living painting, autumn colors blazing against the blue October sky. Thomas Reynolds materialized from within the vast apartment, A distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and the quiet efficiency of someone accustomed to managing impossible situations. His handshake was firm but kind. "Miss Nash, thank you for coming. Mr. Blackwood is waiting in his study." She followed him through rooms that seemed designed for architectural magazines rather than actual living. Her footsteps were swallowed by Persian rugs probably worth more than her entire education. Everything gleamed with the kind of perfection that unlimited money could buy. The study door was solid walnut, carved with intricate details. Thomas knocked twice before opening it. "Mr. Blackwood, Miss Nash has arrived." Julian Blackwood looked up from his desk, and Olivia felt the air leave her lungs. Photographs hadn't captured the intensity of his presence, the way he seemed to command the space around him without moving. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running, his hands through it. His charcoal dress shirt was rolled at the sleeves, revealing strong forearms crossed with a thin white scar along his right wrist. But it was his eyes that undid her. The color of amber whiskey, sharp and penetrating, filled with an intelligence that seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed facade. "Please sit," he said, his voice deep and controlled. Olivia took the chair across from his desk, acutely aware of how out of place she must look in this temple of wealth and power. Julian studied her resume with the focus of a predator sizing. "Up pray. You taught at Sunnybrook Elementary for 5 years, he said finally. "Why did you leave?" "Budget cuts," Olivia replied, keeping her voice steady. "The district eliminated 12 positions. I was among them. And before that, I worked as a teaching assistant while completing my degree. I was putting myself through school." Julian's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those amber eyes. "No family to help?" The question hit like a physical blow. Olivia lifted her chin slightly, refusing to let shame color her voice. "No. I was in foster care until I aged out at 18. I've been on my own since then." For a long moment, they stared at each other across the expanse of his desk. Olivia could hear her heart beating, could smell the leather and sandalwood that permeated the room. "Thomas spoke with your former principal this morning," Julian said. "Dr. Thornton gave you an exceptional recommendation. He said you have a remarkable gift with children, especially those dealing with emotional challenges." Before Olivia could respond, the study door burst open and a small tornado of energy rocketed into the room, dark curls bouncing as she launched herself at Julian's chair. "Daddy, Ms. Harper said you were talking to someone special." Julian's entire demeanor transformed. The ice in his eyes melted as he scooped the little girl into his arms, and Olivia witnessed something she hadn't expected. Love, pure and fierce, and completely unguarded. "Penny, sweetheart, this is Miss Olivia. She might be coming to take care of you while Daddy works." The child turned curious eyes on Olivia, studying her with an intensity that was pure Julian Blackwood. She was beautiful, with her father's sharp intelligence and something softer that must have come from her mother. "Do you know any good stories?" Penelope asked with the direct honesty of a 6-year-old. "The last lady made me eat broccoli without cheese and said I talked too much." Olivia smiled, the first genuine smile she'd felt in weeks. "I know hundreds of stories, and I think vegetables taste much better when we make them into something fun." "Do you like dragons?" Penelope's face lit up. "I love dragons. They breathe fire and have treasure." "Well, I know how to make broccoli look like tiny trees in a dragon's forest. Would you like me to show you sometime?" The little girl bounced in her father's arms. "Daddy, can she stay? Please? She likes dragons." Julian's eyes met Olivia's over his daughter's head, and something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps. Two people who understood what it meant to protect something precious. "Why don't you go help Miss Harper with your art project?" Julian suggested gently. "Miss Olivia and I need to finish talking." After Penelope skipped out of the room, Julian leaned back in his chair. The businessman mask slipped back into place, but Olivia caught glimpses of the father underneath. "She doesn't usually warm to strangers," he said. "Children recognize authenticity," Olivia replied. "They can sense when someone truly cares versus when someone is just doing a job." Julian nodded slowly. "I need to be direct with you, Miss Nash. This position involves unusual requirements." Olivia's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral. After the month she'd had, she was prepared for almost anything. "My daughter needs stability and security, but I also need someone who can fulfill a more complex role." Julian stood and walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. "My business is at a crucial juncture. I'm negotiating a merger that will either secure our future or destroy everything I've built. My board of directors and investors need to see me as stable, settled, a family man." The words hung in the air. Olivia felt something cold settle in her stomach. "But you're not married," she said quietly. The penthouse felt like a museum after dark. Olivia stood in her new bedroom, surrounded by luxury she'd never imagined would be hers. The space was larger than her entire studio apartment, with a king-sized bed draped in silk, a sitting area, by the windows, and a walk-in closet that could comfortably house a family of 4. Thomas had arranged for a complete wardrobe to be delivered that afternoon. Designer dresses, elegant shoes, and jewelry that probably cost more than her student loans. Olivia ran her fingers over a midnight blue evening gown, marveling at the softness of the fabric. "Miss Olivia!" Penelope burst through the bedroom door, her face glowing with excitement. "Daddy says we're having breakfast together tomorrow like a real family." Olivia's heart softened at the child's enthusiasm. "That sounds wonderful. What's your favorite breakfast food?" "Pancakes. But Ms. Harper always makes them round and boring. Can you make them into shapes?" Kneeling to Penelope's level, Olivia smiled. "I think we can manage some dragon pancakes. Would you like that?" Penelope threw her small arms around Olivia's neck, hugging her with the fierce intensity that only children possessed. "I'm so happy you're here. Daddy smiles more when you're around." The words hit deeper than Olivia expected. She'd only been here 2 days, but she'd already noticed how Julian's mask slipped when he looked at his daughter. The businessman disappeared, replaced by a man who loved someone more than his own ambition. "We should get you ready for bed," Olivia said gently. "Tomorrow's going to be a big day," as she tucked Penelope into her elaborate bedroom, complete. With hand-painted constellations on the ceiling and a canopy bed fit for royalty, Olivia felt the weight of responsibility settle onto her shoulders. This wasn't just about money anymore. This little girl deserved someone who would fight for her happiness. "Will you read me a story?" Penelope asked, clutching a well-worn stuffed dragon. Olivia selected a book from the impressive collection lining the walls. As she read about brave knights and magical kingdoms, she was acutely aware of Julian standing in the doorway, watching them with an unreadable expression. After Penelope fell asleep, Olivia found Julian in the kitchen, standing by the massive windows that overlooked the glittering city. He'd changed into jeans and a charcoal sweater, looking more human than the intimidating CEO she'd met days ago. "She likes you," he said without turning around. "She's easy to like." "Remarkable." Julian turned, something shifting in his expression. "Most people find her challenging. She's been through a lot of changes." "Children need consistency," Olivia said. "They need to know someone will show up for them no matter what." Julian studied her with those penetrating amber eyes. "Is that what you needed when you were her age?" The question cut too close to old wounds. Olivia wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly feeling exposed despite the luxurious surroundings. "Everyone needs that," she said quietly. Before Julian could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. "I have to take this. We have our first public appearance tomorrow night, a charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum. Several major investors will be there, including my business partner. Olivia's stomach fluttered with nerves. What should I expect? Smile. Be charming. Convince everyone you're completely in love with me. Julian's tone was matter-of-fact, but Olivia caught something else underneath. Challenge, maybe, or warning. Can you do that? Olivia met his gaze, drawing on every ounce of strength she'd built, surviving on her own. I'm a better actress than you might think. The charity gala transformed the Metropolitan Museum of Art into a glittering showcase of wealth and influence. Olivia felt like an imposter in her borrowed designer gown, but she held Julian's arm with practiced confidence as they navigated the crowd of Manhattan's elite. The dress was perfect, midnight blue silk that brought out the green in her eyes and hugged her curves in all the right places. Thomas had arranged for a stylist who'd worked magic with her hair, pinning it into an elegant updo that made her look sophisticated and expensive. Julian was devastating in his black tuxedo, commanding attention without trying. Every conversation stopped when he approached. Every handshake seemed to carry the weight of million-dollar deals, but Olivia noticed how his hand never left her back, how his touch was gentle and protective even when surrounded by sharks. "Julian," a voice called out, cultured and sharp. Olivia turned to see a stunning blonde woman approaching, her movements predatory despite her elegant smile. "Natalie," Julian replied, and Olivia felt his body tense beside her. "I was beginning to think you were avoiding society altogether," the woman said. "It's been ages since you've graced us with your presence." Natalie Winter's blue eyes fixed on Olivia with calculating interest. "And this must be the mysterious woman who finally captured Julian Blackwood's heart?" "Natalie, this is my wife." "Olivia," Julian said smoothly, but Olivia caught the edge underneath. "Olivia, Natalie is my business partner." Olivia extended her hand with a warm smile, channeling every etiquette lesson she'd ever absorbed from books and movies. "It's wonderful to meet you. Julian speaks of you often." Natalie's handshake was firm, testing. "Oh, Julian's always been so private about his personal life. Tell me, how did you two meet?" The question hung in the air like a trap. Olivia felt Julian's hand tighten slightly on her back. A warning. They hadn't discussed their cover story in detail. "At Penelope's school," Olivia said smoothly, the lie flowing easily. "I was volunteering with the children's reading program. Julian came to pick up Penny one afternoon, and we started talking about Russian literature. Turned out we both loved the same obscure translation of The Brothers Karamazov." Julian's surprise was almost imperceptible, but Olivia felt it. She'd just given them a believable meet-cute, complete with emotional depth and shared interests. "How romantic," Natalie purred, but her eyes remained calculating. "And when was this magical encounter?" 7 months ago, Olivia replied without hesitation. "Though it took Julian 3 weeks to work up the courage to ask for my number." A genuine smile tugged at Julian's lips. "She's being generous. It was longer than that." Natalie's expression shifted, becoming more predatory. "You certainly kept it quiet. The wedding was quite the surprise." Olivia felt Julian stiffen beside her. This was dangerous territory. "We wanted something private," Olivia said before Julian could respond. "After everything Penelope's been through, we thought a quiet ceremony would be better for her." "Of course," Natalie nodded, but Olivia could see the wheels turning behind her practiced smile. "I hope we'll be seeing more of you, both at company events. It would be wonderful to get to know Julian's new bride better." The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. Natalie Winters wasn't buying their story, and she was planning to dig deeper. As they moved through the crowd, playing their roles with increasing confidence, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every smile felt scrutinized, every touch analyzed. "You did well back there," Julian murmured during a quiet moment, his lips close to her ear. The literature story was inspired. Olivia shivered at the warmth of his breath against her skin. I had to say something. She was looking at us like we were lying. She was. Natalie's always been suspicious of everyone. It's what makes her good at business and dangerous as an enemy. During a moment when they were alone on a balcony overlooking the museum gardens, Julian turned to her with an expression she couldn't read. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly. "What did you expect? Someone more desperate, more willing to do anything for money?" His amber eyes searched her face. "You're protecting Penelope as much as you're helping me. Why?" Olivia looked out over the glittering city, choosing her words carefully. "Because she deserves someone who sees her as more than just a job. Because she's already been let down by too many adults who were supposed to care about her." Julian was quiet for so long that Olivia wondered if she'd said something wrong. When she turned back to him, his expression was raw, unguarded. "Her mother told me she was leaving while Penelope was napping," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Said she wasn't cut out for motherhood, that she needed to find herself without the burden of a child. She hasn't contacted Penelope once in 4 years. The confession hit Olivia like a physical blow. The reality was so much more painful than she'd imagined. "Julian, I'm sorry. I didn't know." "No one does. The official story is that we separated amicably and share custody." His laugh was bitter. "Even in absence, I'm protecting her image." Olivia understood then why the fake marriage was so important to him. It wasn't just about business deals or board approval. It was about rewriting a story that had been built on abandonment and betrayal. "Penelope will never know," she said firmly. "Whatever happened before, she deserves to grow up feeling loved and wanted." Julian's eyes met hers, and Olivia saw something dangerous flicker in their depths. Gratitude, maybe, or something deeper. "We should go back inside," he said. But neither of them moved. The tension stretched between them, electric and impossible to ignore. For a moment, Olivia forgot they were acting, forgot this was all pretend. Olivia didn't sleep. She spent the night sitting on the floor of her bedroom, her back against the wall, watching as darkness gave way to dawn. She hadn't packed, couldn't bring herself to admit that it was truly over. At 6, there was a soft knock on her door. She expected Thomas, coming to escort her from the building. Instead, it was Julian, still in his clothes from the night before, looking as though he hadn't slept either. "The board meeting is in 3 hours, he said without preamble. "Natalie has called an emergency session to discuss the security breach, as she's calling it. The merger is hanging by a thread." Olivia stood slowly. "I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Why did you lie?" The question was raw, stripped of anger, and left with only hurt. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" "Because I'm not Harrison Reed's daughter anymore," Olivia said quietly. "I walked away from that life 7 years ago, changed my name, cut all ties. The only thing he gave me that I kept was my education. And even that I couldn't finish when he discovered. I was teaching instead of joining his company." Julian's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." Olivia took a deep breath. "My mother died when I was 12. After that, I became invisible to my father unless I was useful to his business ambitions. He planned my entire life, the right schools, the right degree, the right position in his company. But I wanted to teach. I wanted to help children who felt as lost and alone as I did." She moved to the window, watching the city wake up beyond the glass. "When I told him I was changing my major to education, he cut me off completely. No money, no contact, nothing. I was dead to him, so I became someone else. Olivia Nash, a girl with no family and no connections. Just her own strength and determination." And you never thought to mention any of this when you applied for a position in the household of your father's biggest rival. Julian's voice held a hint of his earlier anger. I didn't know you were his rival when I answered the ad, Olivia said, turning to face him. I was desperate, facing eviction. It wasn't until I saw you that I realized who you were. By then, she trailed off. By then what? By then I'd already met Penelope, already seen how much she needed someone who wouldn't leave. I told myself it didn't matter who her father was competing with. She deserved stability. Julian studied her face, searching for deception. And now? Now that Natalie has exposed you? Now that the press is circling, ready to turn this into a scandal that could destroy everything? Now I'll go, Olivia said simply. I'll disappear again. Become someone new if I have to, but first I need to say goodbye to Penelope. Something in Julian's expression shifted. She's still sleeping. Then I'll wait until she wakes up. I promised. I wouldn't leave without saying goodbye. I won't break that promise, even if you throw me out afterward. For a long moment they stared at each other across the room, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging between them. Julian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. Natalie, the third call in the last hour. You should go, Olivia said. The meeting is important. So is this. Julian took a step toward her. Did you ever contact your father during our arrangement? Did you ever pass along information about the merger? No. Olivia met his gaze without flinching. I haven't spoken to Harrison Reed since the day he told me I was no longer his daughter. I don't even know if he's aware I'm here. Julian nodded slowly, making a decision. Get dressed. You're coming with me to the board meeting. What? Julian, that's insane. I'll only make things worse. Maybe, or maybe you're exactly what I need to save this merger. There was something dangerous in his eyes now. Something calculating and fierce. The question is, are you willing to face your father after all these years? For Penelope? For me? Olivia felt her heart hammering against her ribs. The thought of seeing Harrison Reed again made her physically ill. But the alternative, walking away from Julian and Penelope forever, was unbearable. Yes, she said, I'll do it. The Reed Technologies building towered over Midtown, a gleaming monument to Harrison Reed's empire, as their car pulled up to the entrance. Olivia stared up at it, fighting the urge to flee. Julian took her hand, his touch unexpectedly gentle. Remember, you're not alone this time. The boardroom fell silent as they entered together. 12 pairs of eyes locked onto them. 11 board members and Natalie Winters, whose triumphant smile faltered at the sight of Olivia beside Julian. Bold move, bringing her here, Natalie said, recovering quickly. But it doesn't change the facts. She's Harrison Reed's daughter planted in your household as a corporate spy. Is she? Julian's voice was calm, controlled. Or is she a woman who changed her name and built a new life specifically to escape her father's control? A woman who has had no contact with Reed Technologies or Harrison Reed for 7 years? Before Natalie could respond, the boardroom door opened again. Harrison Reed himself walked in, tall and imposing, his silver hair immaculately styled, his expression coldly furious. What is the meaning of this? He demanded, his eyes landing on Olivia with shock. Catherine? Olivia flinched at the use of her birth name, but raised her chin defiantly. Hello, Father. It's been a long time. The room erupted in murmurs. Julian squeezed Olivia's hand, a silent show of support. I received an interesting call this morning, Harrison continued, his composure returning. Apparently my long-lost daughter has been living as Julian Blackwood's wife. Imagine my surprise. Imagine mine, Julian replied coolly, discovering that the woman I married is the estranged daughter of my biggest competitor. A woman who walked away from wealth and privilege to teach children, only to find herself in my home caring for my daughter. Harrison's eyes narrowed. And you expect me to believe this is all coincidence? That she didn't seek you out deliberately? I had no idea who she was when I hired her, Julian said. Just as she had no idea who I was competing with. But now that everything is in the open, perhaps we can discuss the real reason we're all here. The merger. Natalie stepped forward. Julian, you can't seriously be considering proceeding with the merger after this deception. Why not? Julian challenged. Reed Technology still has the patent portfolio we need. Blackwood Security still has the encryption algorithm they want. The business case hasn't changed. The trust has, Natalie snapped. Has it? Julian looked around the room, meeting each board member's eyes. Or has this revelation created an unprecedented opportunity? Harrison Reed's daughter, estranged for years, now married to Julian Blackwood. Sounds like the foundation of a family business alliance to me. Olivia stared at him, stunned by the audacity of his play. He was using her connection to Harrison as leverage, turning a potential scandal into a business advantage. Harrison's laugh was cold. You always were a quick thinker, Blackwood. But you're forgetting one thing. Catherine walked away from Reed Technologies years ago. She has no stake in my company, no influence, no value as a connection. Don't I? Olivia found her voice, anger rising at her father's dismissal. I may have walked away, but I'm still your only child, your only heir. Unless you've had another. Family you haven't mentioned? Harrison's silence was telling. The press doesn't know that we're estranged, Olivia continued, gaining confidence. All they know is that Harrison Reed's daughter is married to Julian Blackwood. How would it look if you publicly rejected this potential alliance? If you denied your own daughter after she's finally found happiness? The boardroom was utterly silent now, everyone watching the father-daughter confrontation with fascination. You left, Harrison said, his voice uncharacteristically emotional. You chose teaching children over your family legacy. I chose happiness. Over control, Olivia corrected. I chose a life where I could make a difference instead of just making money. And now I've found people who value me for who I am, not what I can do for their company. Julian stepped forward, addressing the board. The merger makes sense financially. It makes sense strategically. And now, with this unexpected personal connection, it makes sense politically. The question is simple. Are we going to let old rivalries prevent us from creating the most powerful tech company on the East Coast? One by one, the board members began to nod. Even Natalie, recognizing defeat, remained silent. Harrison looked at his daughter, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in years. You love him, he said quietly, as if just realizing it. This isn't an act. Olivia met Julian's eyes across the room, no longer caring about contracts or arrangements or pretense. Yes, she said simply. I do. Part 5, True Hearts Unveiled. Press conference announcing the merger agreement was a media circus. Cameras flashed as Julian and Harrison shook hands, smiling for the photographers with decades of rivalry momentarily set aside for the business deal of the century. Olivia stood to the side, uncomfortable in the spotlight but determined to play. Her part one last time. The story presented to the world was simple. Harrison Reed's daughter had married Julian Blackwood, creating a personal bridge between rival companies that eventually led to their historic merger.